So I've been asked to do a quick video of how I do my Lightroom processing. Not really sure why anybody would want to know. I don't really do that much, but here goes. So I shoot JPEG. The reason for that is when I changed over to Fuji 5 or 6 years ago, Lightroom couldn't really deal with the Fuji RAW files. There were other systems to use like Silky Pics that comes with the Fuji cameras. I never ever tried it, to be honest with you. I was so used to using Lightroom when I had Canon, when I did shoot RAW files, that I decided to just stick with it. Everybody who shoots Fuji, and probably plenty of people who don't, know that the Fuji JPEG files are absolutely amazing. So it's never been a huge problem. Occasionally I'll excuse me, wish I could pull some highlights back that I can't, but generally as a rule it's not a problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to process a couple of files from Ava that I did on Saturday. Obviously we're here in Lightroom. For those who don't know Lightroom, this is the list of images on the left here. This is your processing windows on the right here. Across the bottom you've got all the pictures that you took, and then across the top is just a list of which sections you use. So we're starting off in library to get the pictures, then we're going to develop, which you can't actually see on there, but it's in the top right hand corner. This picture is quite blown out, it's very highlighted in the background. Now on the left here you can see lots and lots and lots and lots of presets. I have absolutely millions of them, which is ridiculous because I hardly use any of them. But they've been there a long time. I've got some Eric Kim presets, which I use more with street than anything, and I don't use them very often these days. A-Nate presets, which I never use. New presets, which I use occasionally. Some Kodachrome presets, never use them. Kodachrome, another set of Kodachrome. Most used presets, now these are the ones that I've either brought in from other places or I've made myself. A list here, I don't know if you can see it, Chris 1 down to Chris 9B, Chris Black and White, Chris Main, Chris Main 2, Chris Main, Chris Main 2, Chris 9 and Chris 9B are the ones I use the most. So straight away click on a preset. You can hardly see any difference to the shot at all. So if I click on another one, you can see that goes slightly darker. If I click on this one, it should go, yeah, there you go, a little bit darker. Chris 8, that is for shots that are completely overblown. So not a lot happening with there. So I think I'm going to go back to Chris Main 2, which, as I say, and then I'm going to do over to the right on here and use exposure button to bring that down just a little bit, bring the highlights down a little bit, and bring the whites down a little bit. I'm going to increase the contrast. I do quite like a lot of contrast. I also up the clarity. About 20 is usually about okay on there. Vibrance is +7, I'll leave that way. Saturation is -10, which I do that a lot, despite the fact that Fuji colours are incredible. I do actually bring the saturation down. The tone curve is usually a very, very minor S shape, as you can see there. If I want to fade the shot a bit more, I'll bring that up. Hang on, what's going on there? That's not actually, oh there we go, yeah. So that fades that a little bit more. There's not a great deal else to do to that. I quite like that the way it is. Maybe just bring that down and darken that up a little bit. Bring the exposure down there. Add the contrast, add a bit of clarity. I quite like that, I quite like that. I'm going to leave that one as it is. Let's find one that's not so blown out. Let's go with that one. Let's have a look at this one. Right, so as you can see we're shooting quite a nice apartment on Airbnb on Saturday. So sometimes, as you know, your pictures won't be quite straight. So if you go into the lens correction in Lightroom, you've got level, which will do what it says, vertical, which is straightforward, full, and auto. So I tend to click on auto. That straightens everything out. It can, depending on the angle, distort the person in the shot, which is obviously not something you want to do. So go back over to on the left where my presets are. Again, click Main 2. That gives a nice look that I like. There's a little bit dark in there. Obviously we've got this slight red glow from the blinds on the window, but I'm going to again look at this, bring the contrast up a little bit, bring the highlights back a bit and the whites again, just a bit too much there. Leave the shadows as they are, bring the clarity up a little bit, leave everything else there. Now I use this quite a lot and I really like this. So you pick your circle, you can direct exactly where you want that to go. That's exposed the face a little more. You can also bring the saturation down if it's, you know, if the colour balance isn't quite right and there's too much glow on it. To be honest with you, I like that as it is. I don't think there's a great deal more needs doing to that. So there's really not a lot else to tell you. That's kind of what I do on every picture, whether it's street photography or models. Actually, I'll show you this one and then show you how I do my black and white. So we're back in the same thing. I'm going to click auto. Let's just straighten that up a bit. There we go. Back over here now. I have a few black and white presets, but the one I use the most is this one, high contrast black and white. Which I can't remember if I made that one myself or not, but anyway, I really like this black and white preset. So back up to the right, on the right screen where the controls are. Exposure is fine, I like that the way it is. Sorry, wrong button, there you go. So bring the whites right down, boost the highlights a little bit, bring the darks back and move the blacks up. Really not a lot to do. I use the temperature and tint on this quite a little bit as well. So temperature wise, you get a bit brighter if you've got a yellow or blue. Oh, excuse me. So I've got the yellow. With the red, I usually have that on about 20. It just gives a little bit of a darker edge to it, which I really like. Again, if you want to just darken the sides a little bit, it's going light, just bring that down. There you go. And on the right, just darken me a little bit, as ever is the main part of the picture. Yeah, I quite like that. So there you go, that's it. Not really a lot to tell you. I don't do much. I'm not really sure why people wanted to see what I do, but there you go. Any questions, stick them in the thing below, or ask me on Facebook or whatever, those people who know me. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye now.